grab your drink, sit down, tie your hair up, because we're about to be setting people straight. Hi guys, my name is Faith the Pharmacist. Today's video is very laid back vibes, laid back, chilled out vibes. I've actually got my laptop here just in case you spot it or you see me looking down. I'm here to talk to you about how to handle that toxic colleague. How to handle a toxic colleague. I am going to be saying this from the point of view of someone who has dealt with a toxic colleague and also someone who has managed a situation similar, right? So I'm going to be giving you all the tea, so grab your drinks. Basically, what is a toxic colleague? A toxic colleague is anyone who intentionally wants to make life hell for you at work, because it's not enough to have a difficult time in the pharmacy. Someone now wants to come and bring their own issues and come and pour sand inside your gari. It's not happening. It shouldn't be happening. It's really unfair. It's not respectful. It's not what the workplace culture should be like. But sadly, this situation is real. It happens, right? I've experienced it. Most of my friends have experienced it. I know someone recently who got fired because of a toxic colleague who, I'm going to speak more about that later. But yeah, a toxic colleague basically almost exists everywhere, and the key to knowing how to deal with them is basically what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So if you've got one of these, or you just want to hear the gist just in case you come across one of them in the future, or you've already dealt with a toxic colleague and you want to let us know exactly what you did in the comment section, please gather around, let's get into this. All right, so the first thing that you need to do while dealing with a toxic colleague is communicate your boundaries clearly. Now, I know some of them don't listen, some of them have blocked ears, some of them walk around like this cotton wool in their ears, so no matter how much you try to communicate those boundaries, they still would not get it. But you need to be assertive, right? And if possible, have a witness. This is one key don't when dealing with a toxic colleague. Don't have interactions with them when there's no one else around. Don't have interactions with them when there's no one else around. You can do the basic things like just doing your job. Say, for example, if they're your fellow dispenser, or if they're a dispenser and you're a pharmacist, you can hand each other prescriptions. Do just a basic thing, barest minimum that you need to do to get through the day, but don't have any interaction outside of that unless there's someone else around who can say something if that person wants to say you've said something that you didn't say. Yeah? Right. So communicate your boundaries clearly and assertively, but always make sure someone is around just so they know that someone else is listening and they can't lie about whatever interaction it is that you did have. Right? The second thing you need to do is to be careful not to fall into their trap, because these toxic people, right, I feel like a lot of them are just sad people that have a lot of like background problems that you don't know about, and they just come to work and manifest all these negative behaviors that make the workplace unbearable for their colleagues. And I just think it's just rubbish. And sometimes out of their bitterness, they'll probably be trying to set traps for you. So you need to be very careful. If you know you've got a toxic colleague who is particularly targeting you, try and be very, 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 very careful not to fall into their traps. There's lots of things that can be said and done these days that can be perceived as, disrespectful, discriminatory. So you need to be very cautious about the kind of things you say, the kind of things you do, the kind of stories you tell, the kind of interactions you have. I know it's a lot to ask for just to be in a workplace, but unfortunately, if your company has not dealt with this toxic person, you sadly have to work with them for a number of months/years, depending on how long both of you end up having to work together for. But in that time period, try as much as possible to avoid and run away from their traps. Make sure you do not fall into the trap, right? The next thing I have to say is that you need to take notes. Keep records. if you can, every single interaction you have with this person, have a jotter that you quickly go and write it down somewhere, because you never know the day they will say, oh, but James said, but Barbara said, but this person said, or this person did, and you know fully well that you didn't, and this is what they said, and somehow it's your word against theirs. But if you have evidence of things that you've been keeping, if anything does come up, at least you have things that you can present. And the other thing with not keeping evidence is that you're only human. You will forget a lot of things. You will forget a lot of key details. So if there's any key detail that you need to remember for evidence sake in the future, write it down. If you have a toxic colleague, just make a jotter. Make it. See, pharmacy is very common for people to be toxic in the pharmacy workplace, because it's such a small environment for quite a few people to work together. So somehow we spend lots of time together, and people bring their negative energy, negative attitudes, negative baggage into the team and just cause all sorts of chaos. So just make sure you're recording everything. If you find that an altercation is happening and you don't know what to do, you can't really record on the spot. If you're close to your phone, on your video and tell them, I'm recording you. Say, I am recording you right now, so continue doing what you are doing. You know how we see those videos on Instagram where people are exposing Karens? Yes, it's them. Expose them. Record them. Record their voices. Record their faces. If they start to do things that you feel like, okay, this shouldn't be. The next thing that I would say you need to do to deal with a toxic colleague is always be the first person to report. I said it. Be the one that will go and tell. Because the funny thing is, if they go and report first, these people are the quickest to go and report to management. They are the quickest. So the minute they go and report, they can always twist the story, turn it in such a way that it's now against you. And when you go and speak your own part, they've already formed an opinion, basically, whoever it is they've reported to. So make sure that you are the first to go and report. If anything happens and you're just finding that, okay, this is a bit off, I'm not quite liking the situation, email your manager immediately. Let them know that you said it first, right? And just make sure that you're honest and you're not trying to throw anyone under the bus as well, because you cannot be dealing with venom and be bringing venom. Just be a decent person, be honest, and just try and keep your calm as much as you can. Try and remain poised, especially as a pharmacist. A lot of things you can do, if you want to be crazy, will go against your code of ethics. Always be the first person to report, because if you don't speak first, this toxic colleague can actually get you kicked out of your job. And this is from a real life story of someone that I know. So be the first person to report and always keep notes. So the next thing I will talk about is that when situations get heated, when tensions are rising and you feel like you might lose yourself in that moment, or things might go out of hand, just remove yourself. Save yourself the stress, save yourself the explanations. Try to control your anger/temper and step away from the situation, because trust me, it will do you more harm than good to stand there and exchange words or even potentially get physical with a toxic colleague, or even just do things or say things that are out of character for you and that might jeopardize your position at work. So remove yourself from the situation quickly. The next thing that you would need to do is make sure that whenever you report to management, follow it up, because management are fond of pretending like you didn't tell them anything. If you don't follow it up, you need to follow it up and chase it up, because every problem that you've resolved, number one, you want to make sure it has been logged against yours and the person's profile. Number two, any problem that you report, you want to make sure it is resolved according to the code of conduct of your employer. So they need to know what they're doing. Is it okay for them to have a toxic workplace? Is it okay for them to have discrimination in the workplace? Is it okay for them to have people who are treating other colleagues like crap in the workplace? Is that what's in their handbook? If it's not, then they have every every right to step in and resolve that issue to a good extent, right? So the next thing that you now need to do, if all else fails, if everything fails, if you've tried every single thing, literally, if you've tried every single thing, get your ass out of that job. Get your ass out of that job. You will find another job, trust me, because it's not worth your sanity. It's not worth your mental health. It's not worth it to stay there if your management is not helping, if that toxic colleague is not letting you be, or just creating a very, very hostile environment for you. You don't need to remain there. You will not die if you leave that job. Come up with a plan, save up money, apply for other jobs, and just plan your way out of that job. Because if you don't leave, they'll either kill you or they'll cause a lot of damage to your reputation. You need to just give yourself sense, give yourself brain, and get your ass out of there. Get yourself out ASAP, like run fast. Because some people out there just be going crazy and trying to run everyone into the ground. I don't understand. I really don't get it. I don't get it. Like, why is it because your life is miserable you have to make my own miserable? Leave me alone. I am actually not looking for trouble. So why are you bringing trouble to me? You don't need to stay there. Just get yourself and get out of that place. I hope I've been able to help you with these few tips. These are things that I have done in the past. I have researched that needed to be done in the past, and things that from experience as a manager I would recommend a colleague does if anything goes wrong and they have a toxic work colleague. So hopefully this has helped you. Hopefully you can take these tips and take them into future jobs to help you deal with toxic colleagues in the future, because they're not going anywhere. They're always, I don't know, they're just like flies, you know those flies that rest on bins, right? You don't know they're there, but the minute you step into the environment, they just rise up. That's how they are. You probably look for the job, you see the environment, you're like, nice place, I can chill with these people, I can get on with them, and you step in and then they're all rising up like, who is this, we're here to make your life miserable. Nah fam, nah. So yes, hopefully this has been of help. I am going to catch you guys in my next video. Make sure you leave a like if this has helped you or if you enjoyed listening to this. Have a lovely day, guys. Bye.